Hello there, and welcome to Wake Up to the Bible. I'm Daniel Kaplan. I'm here with my father, Dr. Mark Kaplan. Together, we're going through the books of the law, Genesis through Deuteronomy, in 1 year, just a little bit each day. We're following the traditional cycle of readings that the Jews have been using for many, many years. So if you know anybody from that community, well, you'll be following along right with them. And today we are going to be reading Genesis 9, 8 through the 17th verse. And I'll be reading from the Robert Alter translation. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, and I am about to establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the fowl and the cattle and every beast of the earth with you, all that have come out of the ark, every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, "This is the sign of the covenant that I set between me and you and every living creature that is with you for everlasting generations. My bow I have set in the clouds to be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And so when I send clouds over the earth, the bow will appear in the cloud. Then I will remember my covenant between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters will no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will see it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures, all flesh that is on the earth. And God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth." So a short but powerful portion, mostly about what is often referred to as the Noahitic covenant or the Rainbow Covenant. My dad loves to talk about covenants, so go ahead, sir.
Well, I believe there was a covenant made with Adam, an Adamic covenant or Edenic covenant, and then now this is a second one made with Noah and his descendants. And as I said, I think it involves a regularity of nature along with the promise not to destroy the earth by water. As we understand, the new heavens and new earth come about because the physical earth burns up. There was a famous novelist when I was a teenager, James Baldwin, who wrote a book called "A Fire Next Time," based upon that theology that the world was destroyed by water, but finally it will be fire that that is the tool in the end. Uh, I would like to say that I personally don't believe that there were no rainbows before this. I think what God is saying is, I'm going to designate the rainbow as the sign. I don't think it means that there weren't rainbows before this, but that he set aside the rainbow as a sign. And my one last comment: Orthodox Jews, when they see a rainbow, have a particular benediction that they recite, which I think is a good idea. They just bless God who remembers his covenants.
Is that
Is that specifically the translation of what they say, "Blessed be God who remembers his covenants"?
Well, that's not the whole blessing. That's,
what is
it's
it?
more or less. Well, next time I'll read the thing literally.
I was just curious if
It's
you
it's
remember.
basically he keeps his promises, and there's three different things that are mentioned. Really, three different ways of saying the same thing, as I recall. He keeps his promises, fulfills his covenant. There may be one other point, but it's all along those same lines.
Now, one other thing, I mentioned this a long time ago, episode one, which if you haven't heard, check it out. You have these different classifications of animals: the fowl, the cattle, the beasts. Again, I like to make something of that, the fact that we have the classifications of different animals, especially for those that maybe are a little bit wary about the dietary laws. You do wonder what these classifications mean. Maybe he's just talking about animals that can be domesticated, beasts of burden, but you could also make of it more than that if you want. You can't make a clear case in Hebrew, from what I understand, because the word is used often for animals that are not necessarily clean. So I can't dogmatically state that that's what that means, but you can make the case. One thing that I like about this is the human way that God approaches us, because he doesn't have to speak in such a way, but he does it in the sense that you're going to remember and I'm going to remember. And the idea that he wants us to empathize like that and see it and think of him in that kind of anthropomorphic way. It's such a humble thing to do because obviously he doesn't have to speak to us in such a way. It all also is relatable to us, so it makes sense why he would, because we can't really understand God unless he does limit himself. But it is very beautiful that he does do that. I think sometimes we forget how ridiculous that is, essentially. Like, yeah, I have to remember. I mean, that's insane.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, King of the universe, who remembers the covenant and is faithful to his covenant and who keeps his word. That's the Hebrew. That's the translation of the blessing for the rainbow. Not that I'm telling you have to do it. I just think it's very nice practice, but I'm not telling you have to do it.
Well, I do think, in a way, if you look at what it says here, this is a sign and everything. I feel like we're kind of, it's not like a command, but obviously we should remember, that's the purpose of it. He's using, even if he didn't make a rainbow for that specific purpose, which maybe, rainbows pre-existed because the laws of nature were similar enough that it could, it's still something, to keep in mind. Something I like to do with rainbows is I like to get a little mathematical with me. So for those of you who enjoy a little bit of, I guess, like a mnemonic device or something like that, is a rainbow is something that consists of three components because it's water, air, and sunlight. And it has seven basic colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, which from a divine perspective, both numbers are very beautiful. So even if I'm not saying that's why that's the case, I'm just having a little artistic fun. But hopefully it can help you remember some points there, because I just think that's very pretty.
Reminds me of my junior high days. Roy G. Biv is how we remembered the spectrum. Roy G. Biv.
And in a more controversial note, obviously people understand how the rainbow has been appropriated by different activist groups. What's interesting is often they'll do a rainbow with six colors, not seven, which is, yeah, it's kind of ironic considering, or not necessarily ironic. It's kind of whatever you want to say. Metaphoric or whatever, because six is often considered the number of man. So it's, taking divine, making it man. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that's why there's some weird supernatural reason for it, but it is something that can maybe help keep in mind. Also, when you see stuff, you can understand if somebody what they're referencing, because you don't want to misconstrue somebody who's deliberately representing a rainbow. And it is interesting. I have noticed that there have been particular Christian groups. You mentioned the Ark Encounter earlier, but they do light up the Ark in a rainbow, and their big thing is, we need to take back the rainbow and everything. So, sure. I'm all for keeping true to what the Bible says despite what's going on around you, and not being worried that things are getting misused. You can still use them properly because that's what they're there for. So yeah, you don't have to freak out about it, for sure. Any
Any
other
other
thoughts?
thoughts?
It was a short passage.
Well, it rainbows always make me think of the song "The Rainbow Connection," which I often think of as a much more profound song than people want to give it credit for, and a great idea about monotheism. And if you ever want to check out, I did do a talk about it a while ago on the Flair Church page. You can always email me because it's kind of hard to find. You're gonna go digging around for a while, but maybe I'll link to it in the comments because it's fun, and it's just a fun play with those lyrics. But anyway, we're going to be returning back to the actual Bible, much more important, tomorrow. And if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, ring the bell, tell your friends, call your neighbors, print up flyers, whatever it is. We want to get a lot of people reading the Bible with us. And feel free to comment about upcoming passages if you come across them. You know where you're going, so you can do it. You can leave us comments or questions, and we'll try to get to them as we see them. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow.